Yeah, and I'm still not sure if I want my hair like this or if I want to put it up quick. It's so flat. We'll
I
go with
like
this.
it. I like the cut too. It's really cute.
Thank you.
Yes. Are you celebrating Mother's Day this weekend?
No, I don't have any children. No, but I do celebrate with my mother.
With your mom. Yes. Is she in town?
No, she lives in Marietta, Georgia.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, mine is in Puerto Rico, and then breast, as you probably know, in Texas. So it's a little bit hard, especially when for the little kids, they're like, bring your grandparents for Grandparents' Day or Mother's Day. And they're like, I can bring the phone.
Yes. I am so excited to have you on.
Thank you.
I don't even know where to begin with all of your accomplishments.
Thank you, Robin. I'm super excited. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored.
Well, Ashley and I are so happy that you're here. Ashley is not able to make it today, so you are stuck with me.
Sounds good. And hi, Ashley.
She's in the background somewhere. Honestly, Jenny, I don't know where to start. You grew up in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
You then obviously came to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in fitness. You've been an NFL cheerleader, captain.
Correct.
You had a fitness career, master Zumba. I love Zumba, so that really dates me, but love Zumba. And I always wanted those pants and I never got them. Someday I'll get the Zumba pants. And then business. And you went to college. You have a chemical engineering degree, both in the I'll call it the science area, and then in the management area, and a book in the book.
Yes, and my own business that I'm starting as well. So super excited.
Yeah, let's take us on a quick little journey.
Yeah. So I'm from Puerto Rico, just like you mentioned. And the funny thing is that when I was in high school, I truly thought that I wanted to go to Broadway and be an actress, a singer, a dancer, because that's been my passion growing up. And my dad said, oh, that's really cute, but no, you're going to be an engineer just like me. So I did say, okay, I'll do engineering and I'll do it opposite from what you are. He's a mechanical engineer. And of course, I #rebel. I say, I'm going to be a chemical engineer. But at that point, I did say that like dancing is what keeps me at flow and it's my passion. And I didn't want to stop. I was not ready to stop. So I said I was going to do the two things in parallel. And I have been blessed with two parallel careers, one in the fitness and dancing area, and the other one as a chemical engineer. So as a chemical engineer, I've done my bachelor's, my master's, and then I've been in the corporate world now for 20 years. Gosh, now I'm the one dating myself. And the cool thing about chemical engineering is a very versatile degree. So I've done everything from chemical engineering in manufacturing and quality, including site head roles, general manager roles. Then I went to the business side as a chief operating officer. And now I am in HR and I am the associate vice president leading global talent acquisition for the company. So I've done several career changes, which has been pretty cool having that different experiences from the whole enterprise. And then on parallel, I've been also a backup dancer for a lot of Latino, very famous singers like Julio Iglesias, Anita Nazario, Manny Manuel, TV shows, especially when I was in Puerto Rico. And then when I moved to the United States after grad school, I said, oh, I miss dancing. I want to go back. And I decided to try out for this little team, the NFL, the Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and I had no idea what football was because in Puerto Rico, we don't have football. All I knew is that I was going to go to an audition to dance and I wanted to know what was the experience in the United States. And when I go there and all these girls are all glamorous, like there's bling bling everywhere, big hair, just a wonderful experience. And I did it for 7 years. And like you mentioned, I ended up being the captain of the team. So that's a whole story on how I ended up not knowing nothing about football and how I got to that role. And then when I was in grad school, I became a fitness instructor. And then I'm still a fitness instructor. I'm still teaching Zumba. And by the way, Zumba is for all ages. Like I have people from college all the way to people who have retired. That's the beauty of it. But then I started working for the company Zumba for 7 years as well as a master trainer for them. So I travel here in the Midwest and in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, licensing instructors in Zumba. So that was pretty cool.
That is amazing. And you're still not even done yet with your story.
I am not. So in 2020, in 2020, I had what I call my pandemic baby. And it's not an actual baby, but it's my business. And I think at that point I said, okay, what is my mission here? I've always loved to spread joy and help people, obviously from a health perspective and things like that. But from my own experience being a Latina in the corporate world, my own experience, even though in the resume, all you see is the highlights and you probably say, oh, wow, she had a tremendous career. It was very bumpy. And looking back, it should not have had to be like that, right? Like I think there is a big disparity of the journey that us minority employees face through the corporate world versus the majority. And I said, you know what? I have figured out on how to embrace my authentic self. And I want everybody to do that. That way we can close the gap. So that's my whole mission. And I do a lot of keynote speeches. I'm writing a book, like you mentioned. I'm so excited. It's going to be launching in August and workshops for company, anything I can do. So the reality of my kids, when they hit the corporate world, whatever they decide to do, they don't have to go through the journey that I had to go through.
I have a million questions.
Go for it.
All of our listeners know, and we are global, so different countries, and I would love to hear from our listeners as we go through this interview and discussion about, I'm going to call it diversity, equity and inclusion, or the lack thereof, and just talk about it, and love to hear from people in different countries. We have a big contingent in Belgium and also in the UK, and I'd love to hear in anywhere, honestly, what other people's experiences are, because I think being in the white minority for so long, the privileged, as it's called, our eyes are really blinded to some things that are, really should be smacking us all in the face. And hey, we need to close the gap. So I really like that part. I do want to talk about your career though, and how you bounced around. And I don't really mean bounce, but how you went back and forth with different careers. Were they intentional? And not to coin your intentional unicorn phrase, but were they intentional changes, or did they happen by happenstance? Did somebody in a higher level say, oh, Jenny's really good at this, let's give her a shot? How did that work? Because in this age now of what we call the great resignation, how do these opportunities come up? And I'm sure a lot of our listeners would like to know, what did you do in order to make things happen, or were opportunities brought to you?
That's a beautiful question. Thanks for it. I will say both. The first career change was intentional. The second one, I think it was a call from God. So let me tell you, after almost 17 years in manufacturing and quality, I had a really good career. Started as a 24/7 process engineer on the floor, all the way into be leading a manufacturing site, which is a pretty big role in that area. But then I started thinking to myself, okay, I love my career, but if I retire only knowing one area of the whole enterprise, I was going to regret it, because I'm a person who's always wants to learn. And honestly, I was a little scared, because my first thought was, who's going to want me now, right? After 16 years here. And then the other thought that I had in my mind was all these limiting beliefs that nobody's going to want me, or I need to start from zero, because now I have my network in terms of the people that I know, the knowledge that I have built, the reputation that I have built, and I'm going to start in a brand new area. And honestly, I was in a workshop, and there was one of the presidents of the company that I work for, and he said, Jenny, I watch people. And it's so funny, because the way he said it was a little bit odd. And I didn't know what to respond. I said, okay, what do you mean? Like, well, I have watched you through your career. Have you ever thought about leaving manufacturing quality and going to another area? And I said, yes, but I think it's too late. And he's the one who said, stop, let's talk. And not that he found me a job, but he gave me that confidence that I needed, that it wasn't too late. And I love that, because sometimes it takes one person, right, to just give you that last confidence that you need to go to your next goal. And then he made me think about, okay, what are my skills that I can take anywhere in the company, right? Not as an engineer, the problem solving skills, the governance on all of it, right? The experiences that I had as a cross-functional leader. And then I started shadowing different areas, and then not always the grass is green on the other side. Let me just say that. There were areas that I say, no, thank you. And other areas that I said, ooh, that's the future of the company, sign me in. And that's how I ended up in the innovation space, because it was something new, still in the business and very close to the patient, which I was really excited about it. And then I said, okay, this is it. This is my career. And I started trying to think, okay, how does it look like? Where do I go from here? Let's start getting mentors and things like that. And then the current role that I have right now opened up. And when it opened up, a lot of people randomly started saying, Jenny, you should go for it. And I'm telling you, Robin, I think I told everybody, you're crazy. Like, I'm not HR. Like, what do you mean? I'm an engineer. Like, I've never had experiences in HR by title. But then about the seventh person that told me the same thing very randomly, then that's whenever I say, okay, God, I'm hearing you now. There must be something here. And I think this is a sign, right? And I went for it, just give it my best. And then I realized something. I think I was making the term HR way too complicated, because when you break it down, it has the people side, the diversity, equity, inclusion, which I love, and I do a lot outside of my normal business or corporate world, and transformation. And that's my superpower. And I said, why didn't I think about HR before? I went for it, I got it, and I feel like I'm at home. And I always said, I have my career and then I do the things that I'm passionate for outside of it. And now both of them align. And it's a really, I mean, I don't want to sound like a motivational quote, but it's a really magical place to be at. And I'm enjoying every second of it.
I'm going to hit on a couple things that you said. You and I are both lifelong learners. I love to learn. I love to talk to people. I love to hear about their experiences. Obviously, otherwise, Ashley and I would not have this podcast. So we are continually growing ourselves in different ways. And then Ashley and I come together and have conversations about, Ashley did this, but I did this. And then how does that help us grow together? So we all are lifelong learners, constantly trying to level up to a degree, but we just are genuinely curious. And that's obvious from our discussion, is that you are genuinely curious. Mm-hmm. And the other thing you mentioned is people who follow a lot of the, I'm going to call them the influencers out on social media, you being one of them as well, talking about limiting beliefs, because holy cow, I just saw one yesterday that there was a horse that was tied up to one of those plastic chairs that you see around campfires or picnic tables or what have you. And little did the horse know that they could just pick up and walk away, but thinking that they were tied to something, when in all actuality, they really weren't. So I find the limiting beliefs, I keep learning and studying about limiting beliefs. And you had the limiting belief to a degree about, well, I'm not going to go into human resources. That doesn't make any sense at all. When actually a lot of your skill sets were absolutely compatible with human resources.
Absolutely. And wow, I love that story about the horse, because it's so true. They said that 80% of success is in our minds, right? And the mindset, and the rest is skill and training and things you get along the way. And this is something just like you. I think we're like so alike in that I'm always, it's like a muscle that you take to the gym and keep working on it. And every time I have any training or book or podcast, I put my hands on it, because I love to learn. I think the biggest limiting belief I have from my career perspective, and I think it's the way perhaps that I was raised through my culture, is that for you to be successful, you have to have a certain degree and you have to attain a certain goal. And I had success equals a role in my mind. And that role was being a side head of one of the big, I was a side head of one of the smaller side. I wanted to be a side head of one of the biggest sites. And when I had that in mind, I limited myself, not only in my mind, but the opportunities. Because think about it, I'm saying, okay, how many sites are in the company? You do the math, and then I'm only thinking that's it for me, right? And whenever I felt like that, I felt that my future was in the hands of other people. All of that thing was stories in my head. Because when you look back and I look at my career, I can have experiences in that company, in other companies, in other areas. So when I realized that success equals growth, that changed for me, like that completely, like, I don't know, broke that box, that whatever I had in my brain. And I say, wow, I don't have this little narrow journey as my only opportunity for success, I just step back and I have a whole ocean of opportunities. And it's just how to be intentional with your skill set and your growth journey to continue to expand those opportunities. And that's easier said than done. But I learned because I had a friend who also said success equals a role, and for her was VP of a certain company that she was working for. But she said that for me to be able to do that, I have to have no kids. I have to sacrifice this, sacrifice that. She sacrificed everything. She even like learned how to play golf, to be in the boys club, because she was determined to get there. And guess what? She got there. She celebrated for 5 hot seconds, and she was still now regretting her choices and still not happy. So success is not a destination, it's just journey. And it's gonna go after we retire, after we go to the next chapter. Life is just about enjoying it, a new chapter at a time.
That is really true. And people say, you know, if I had more of this, if I lived here, if I lived there, it's all within you. And when
Yes.
you start to realize that it's all within you, you're going to be so much happier.
Yes.
So much happier. Doesn't mean that you can't continue to grow and be successful.
Mhm.
It just means grow and be successful with who you are, where you're at, where you're going, action plans, how are you going to get there? And what happens if you don't hit your goal?
Yes.
And then do you just extend out your timeline, or do you change your goal?
Mhm.
It really is all within you. So I find that very interesting. And again, Ashley and I talk about that all the time.
Yes.
How are you happy with where you're at today? Sure, it's great to go on vacations. It's great to the ocean, the mountains, wherever you want to go, wherever your happy place is. But really, the happy place most of the time should always be within you.
Absolutely. And it's also the beauty of learning to live in the now. Because when you're living in the past or in the future, you are not going to be content, right? And I love to do this exercise. I do it once a year, I probably can do it more often. But he said, okay, Jenny, where are you at right now and where you were 5 years ago? And then celebrate the journey, celebrate the wins, and take them with me, right? As I move forward, because otherwise it's really easy to start thinking about you don't have yet and all the goals you want to accomplish. And you're never going to be happy with everything, right? With who you are and the growth that you have had.
I can't remember if I've told our listeners this before or not on the podcast. About every 6 months, definitely every year, I ask myself about 6 questions. Am I happy? Yes or no? What would make me happier? And then what if I had all the money? What would I do? What would the job be? Would I still stay where I'm at? Would I go to a different organization? Would I start a business? Would I be working with animals? So then I start down that path. And then if something happened to my husband, would I still stay in this house and in this area? Would I still be working? What if, so I start asking myself the what ifs. And then it's if something in those questions doesn't add up for me, then I need to figure out what it is.
I don't know if you can see me, but I just wrote them down. I love that. I'm
Because
doing it.
because I think it, not to be morbid, but what if something happened to my husband? Would I be able to stay where I'm at? Do I love the house that I'm in? Do I love the region of the country that I'm in? Or would I want to move somewhere? But then you have to be really careful about, but are you moving for the right reasons? So are you happy now? And
Yeah, absolutely.
yep. And if you had enough money, would you still stay doing what you're doing now? Would you add something? Would you take something out? Would you do more volunteering? Would you not? So all of those questions for me personally are very helpful to determine, am I really where I want to be? And I too do not live with regrets. So
Yes.
that is just, what do you regret? Nothing, because I don't live my life that way. I make sure that I am doing the right thing at the right time.
I love it. It's almost like self-coaching you, right, through those questions. But sometimes if we don't take the time to stop, and I love that you do it so often, we go on autopilot, and then next time, it's like, what did I do, right? And I think we change those. I'm sure those answers change over time as you acquire more experiences, I guess, and that's the beauty of it. So I'm stealing it. I'm giving you credit for it, but I love it.
You can, yes. It's an exercise that I honestly, I do at least at least every year, if not every 6 months, because why live somewhere or why be doing a position that you're not happy with? That doesn't make any sense to me. So
Right.
just like you had mentioned, do what you love, and you didn't realize that you could actually have the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
Absolutely.
yeah, that rang true with me. Let's go down a little different direction about you living your authentic self. So on your website, I did notice you didn't, or I believe I also listened to a podcast that you were on about not wanting to fit the mold of, well, I want to fit in and I want, in order to be successful, I need to fit in and I need to do this and that. And you decided, you know what, I don't need to fit in. I can be my own authentic self and still help people and still reach my goals. So let's talk a little bit about the diversity and how you overcame some things that were barriers, but you overcame them. And how did you do that?
Absolutely love it. So if you see me in social media, I go under the name of Intentional Unicorn, and people say that is so corny, Jenny. Why did you decide to do that? But it's my actual story. Like I really thought that I was sticking out like a unicorn for the wrong reasons. And I tried to do everything to hide that horn and to knock it down or minimize it because I wanted to fit in. I thought that was the formula for success. Why did I think that? I will say probably two things. One, when I looked up, I didn't see many females at all. Probably I can count them with one hand, and no Latino representation or Latina representation. So I said, wow, this is going to be hard if I want that to be one of my goals, to be in senior management. And then the second one was the feedback I just kept receiving. Didn't matter how amazing the outcomes were, the feedback was very, what I call superficial. For example, Jenny, amazing year, but you have to dress like an engineer. And I don't know what that meant because I was a 24/7 manufacturing floor process engineer. So it's not that I could wear a dress or heels or anything, but I did like change my whole wardrobe from colors to black and white because that's what everybody else was doing. They talked about my accent. They talked about how bubbly I was and how almost they didn't hire me because I was bubbly. They said that I empower my employees too much and I needed to be more with, leading with more authority. They one time they told me, Jenny, you have to be very careful about first impressions because you don't look smart. And it was feedback after that on and on and on for years. And what I said, okay, then I need to be like this person. I need to talk like that person. I need to dress like that person. And I put all of my energy into trying to be this avatar of what has been successful in the past. And I think every company has a version of that. And if you're outside of that box, is either question, doubt it because it's different, right? Or they try to coach you to be more like the box so you can be successful. So I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I think they really meant well. I don't know. I'm trying to use my heart here. But what happens? Nobody wins in that formula because I'm telling you, I lost myself. And not only I lost myself, I lost what made me, what made me connect with people. And I lost my confidence because the whole time I'm trying to acting like this avatar. And it was draining. It was exhausted. I did not like it at all. And then I realized, Jenny, like whenever you are your bubbly self and your crazy self and your engaging self, that's whenever you excel. So why are you trying to do something different? And I took it on myself. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it for me anymore. I'm going to do it because I want to then become the role model I didn't have. And I'm going to show that, yes, you can be a mom. Yes, you can be a Latina and a female, and you can still get to senior management by being yourself. And when my why, that's a big one, right? When I had my why was so much more than just me. And it was more like, how do I open up for the next generation a pathway that is not as painful, then I'm all in. And that's why I'm super authentic. You can see me in social media all dolled up with makeup and dress, or you can see me in PJs dancing with my dog. That's just me. So you don't see myself a different version at work and a different version teaching Zumba or a different version playing with my kids in the park or whatever.
This morning you were on social media and your dogs were out playing and you had woke up and you said, have a great day, everybody. Make today, a great day. The dogs are playing, they're running and barking. And yeah. And I tell people too, what you see is what you get. You're not going to get sugar. You're not going to get spin. You might get hit in the forehead with a 2x4, but you're going to get me. I'm real. I don't put on any show. Some days I'm dressed up, some days I'm in sweats, just like you. But I'm always me. I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not.
And don't you feel like a feeling of freedom by doing that? Right. And that's what I wish for everybody, because I think if you put the energy into trying to be somebody who you're not, like the company doesn't win because the company is getting maybe half of you. You don't win because you're completely exhausted. But instead, like if you channel that energy into being your best you, your authentic you don't have to worry about anything but the problem to solve or the organization to take care of. Oh gosh, like it's just so, is that a word in English? Liberating, like freedom, freeing, all of that.
Yes, it is. And that is what you did against all odds and against what everybody told you. So it really resonated with me. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners, because I do feel like, at least here in the United States, there is pressure to be like so-and-so and to talk like somebody and to dress like somebody and to act like somebody and to follow these standards. And how can anybody continually do that sustainably? Right. Which is probably why people leave positions, because they can't keep that up because they're not themselves.
Exactly. It's exhausting, and you're not going to get to the positions where you can have the most influence, right, and help the most people.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about your 2020 Woman of the Year award.
Oh, it was Working Mother of the Year. I still have my little award there. It's not little. See, I need to stop using those words and minimizing things. It was a big thing, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Honestly, it came very unexpected. And I had this sense of imposter syndrome and at the same time pride. Imposter syndrome because from all the years, I got it during the pandemic, right? Working Mother of the Year. And then I started getting all these invitations to talk and coach people and do keynote speeches. And I think they thought that I was that working mother who figured out, right, how to do the whole pandemic thing. That's when I felt like an imposter syndrome, because I remember before, I do love to talk about being a working mother, and you can have both. It's not one or the other. And one of the things that I used to speak a lot is that you have to be very intentional in setting your boundaries. But when the pandemic happened, there's no boundaries whatsoever. So I was just trying to figure out, just like everybody else. The other thing is, it was kind of recognition. Wow, like I did it, because when I first started my career, I remember my management said, Jenny, we see leadership potential in you. But when I looked up, like seriously, Robin, there were no working mothers. There were a few females, but they did not have kids. There was one, and I said, okay, she figured it out. So I'm going to go and talk to her. And I remember she said, well, Jenny, this is it. Your kid has to know that it's either the kids or work, and mommy has to work, and she's not going to be there for the kids, especially like other mommies that can be there for every school activity. It was the most depressing mentorship. And I don't know if people can see me, but like I'm doing the quotations, right? Because I left that meeting so depressing. That's not going to be me. And I didn't have kids at that point, but I said, nope, I'm going to be a technical person. I'm not going to go into management. And thank goodness my supervisor said, hey, try this other person. She was in legal, so in another area, but she's also a working mother. And she said, Jen, you can do both. She actually had 4 kids. I'm like, wow, she can do it. I can do it. I'll figure out a way to do it here in manufacturing and quality. And so having that Working Mother of the Year, which is a national award, it was, wow, somehow I figured it out. And I'm really happy, because you can do both.
And I know a bit about your life from your husband's side of you. And definitely, he has always given you kudos and always states that, you know, you're the supporting backbone to the family. And he just has so much love and support for you. It's fantastic that you made all of this work, and your kids are adorable.
Thank you. He's my rock. I will say, if it wasn't because of him, I don't know if I could do everything I can do.
Yeah, the two of you make a fantastic couple, and I've thought that for years.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about your book because I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yes. It is called also Intentional Unicorn, just the same thing that you see me. And I'm going to tell you something funny about how this whole Intentional Unicorn actually started. That is my life. And I said that, but I was in a leadership, senior leadership training. And they gave us one of those team building exercises. I said, hey, I want you have 5 minutes to get some crayons and get a piece of paper. And then I want you to write down what will be the title of your memoir, if you will have one. And then put a drawing and the title. And you have 5 minutes, go. And that was the day one. I'm like, my goodness, memoir. Like, I don't know. I don't think about that. And I saw by me all these people who were doing like, I'm going to solve, I don't know, this pathway in science, and the other one who's going to solve world hunger. I don't know, right? And I'm saying, So I started drawing like a silhouette, like, and when I say silhouette, it's like a stick, right? Like a stick figure. And then I divided it in half, and half of the silhouette, and that was me, right? Half of it had colors, had a ponytail, was striking a dancing pose. And then the other one was more serious, had like the glasses and attire that was a little bit more work appropriate. And then I said, intentional unicorn, that's going to be my legacy. I'm going to be very intentional in bringing my authentic self the whole time. But it was really funny looking. And then I didn't think anything of it. The next day they said, we have a special guest and you guys are going to be presenting your memoir. So we have to it was the CEO of the company. And I see this like very deep, memoirs and a lot of thought, and I'm here with my stick figure.
And the horn coming out of your head.
And the horn coming out of my head. And then I said, well, this is it, I guess. And he remembers me because of that. So I guess it was memorable. But then from there, they said, hey, we really like your story. We would like for you to do a keynote it's like the biggest event the company has, like a TED Talk, but for the company. So it's one of the biggest events they have in the company. So I did the closing keynote and it was fantastic. And then I said, yeah, I always wanted to write a book. I think I can do a book. But it was one of those things that I said, when I'm old, when I retire, when I'm prepared, but when are you really prepared, right, to write a book? And in 2021, at the beginning, I had a connection. She said that she was going to be highlighted in a book, and she told me about the book publisher and how this lady was fantastic. She was a pilot and she was the CEO of her company. And like, oh my goodness, I need to meet this person. So I met with her just as a get to know. That's it. And she was like the CEO of this book publisher. Not in my million years, I was thinking about the book. I don't know, at the very end, I don't know what made me say, you know what, one of these days I'll write a book. So I'm sure our journeys will cross along again years from now. She said, tell me about it. You have 5 minutes. I'm like, So I did my pitch and she's like, let's go for it. We're going to do it now. I'm like, So I took one of these steps of, I know I want to do it. I don't know how, but I will figure it out. I need to like bank on my passion of what I want people to learn and go for it. And so fast forward, I started writing last year around September, and I just finished writing the book last weekend, which I'm so excited. I'm telling you, it was hard with kids and the career and the business and everything. But I'm so happy. It will be Intentional Unicorn. And then I also go through like the 8 steps on how you can thrive in life and career.
I cannot wait to get a copy.
Thank you.
Yes. And have you back for your launch.
Oh, thank you. That would be fantastic. I really appreciate that.
Yes, it'll be great. You have had just such a wonderful journey. You've had your ups and downs. Anything that you would like our listeners to know if they're going through a similar journey or looking to do something different? What would you offer for them?
Absolutely. There's different things. First of all, work on that muscle of the mindset that we talked about, on making sure that you remove those limiting beliefs and really get into the empowering self, and getting those, even like having a morning routine is so important because it sets the day, it sets the week, it sets the month. And at the beginning, you don't do it whenever you feel like it. You have to do it every day, because that's what happens, right? Once you find that thing that you really want to go after, you're not going to just feel like it the whole time. Things are going to happen. There are going to be challenges because you've been working on that muscle and that discipline, you're just going to go through it, right? So that's one of them. The second one, I would say, have a really big why. For example, I could have said, I want to write a book. Why? I don't know, because I want to have that title, like bestseller book, and kind of like an ego thing, right? But if I would go with something superficial like that, when things would be hard, or that, imposter syndrome would come here and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. I'm going to go back here to what is safe, and that's not for me. But now my big why, again, like I mentioned, is my kids. I don't want them to go through what I have to go through. So anything that I can do to spread my message and we can together learn together and closing that gap, I'm it for it 100%. So that why is what keeps me sustainable. The other one is never too late. As I share, 16 years, right, in one area, you just have to go for it and really build those superpowers that you have. And whenever you know that there's something that is this unique skill that you have, what do you have to do to really make it so sharp that it's almost like putting a flashlight on it, make it shine bright, because that's whenever then people are going to want you, instead of you like begging people to get you, because you want to be where you're celebrated, right? Like whenever you're just tolerated is a big saying that I love, and I keep going after that. So I think a combination of that and proximity is key in terms of network. Don't think you have to do it alone. Make sure you go with people that have done it, or they have the same passion, or they are motivating you to go to that next step. Those people, it can be coaches, it can be masterminds. There's so many ways, right, that you can make sure that you're not by yourself. Everybody who has made something big and a legacy, they didn't do it by themselves. There was a network behind them. And the more you can put yourself in uncomfortable situations, the better. Because whenever you're like, what in the world am I doing here? Celebrate that feeling. That means you're growing.
I love that. We talk about that quite frequently, is that you can't grow if you're comfortable.
Yes.
And so even when people who are scared, just take the baby steps.
Yes.
Just take your baby steps of feeling uncomfortable. And then at some point, you're going to realize, I can take on all the uncomfortable things. Yes, I'm going to have to lean on other people. Yes, I'm going to have to ask questions. Yes, I'm probably going to look dumb, but I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Because look at how far I got when I did that previously, and I can continue to be uncomfortable.
Yes, and it builds the confidence muscle, which is so great to have.
Yes. You had amazing words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Jennie.
Thank you so much for having me. Robin, you're so good at what you do. I feel like we were just like having a glass of wine and having a chat in the backyard. So I love you. Thank you.
I love you.
I'm gonna be so old school, and I'm taking a picture of the two of us right now. I'm
There we
gonna
go.
celebrate this moment. Thank you for having me. I absolutely love sharing and learning from you. I got the what ifs example and all of those words of wisdom that you also share. I'm very humbled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennie. And to all of our listeners, until next time, stay awesome and keep reaching for your anything.